All right, so in this video, I'm just going to add on a little refactoring to this project I've been working on. Basically, someone pointed out to me that there's a pattern called like a query cell pattern you can use, where basically when you have a page that has like a blank state to it, you probably want to show some type of button in the image saying that, hey, you have no, in this case, you have no classroom, so let's go ahead and make a classroom. And then if you do have the classroom, show them. And if you're loading, then show a loader, right? So kind of like a repetitive thing that you have to do throughout your application. And someone showed me a pattern that I could potentially use. Let's just try to refactor some code and see what we can do. So I'm logged in as a teacher. You can see over on the right, if I were to open my panel, I'm logged in as teacher Rick. And inside of my classrooms page, if I go to my Next.js pages and go to classroom, where's that? Right here, I guess this is the index of it. This loads up a classroom screen. And let's kind of understand how this works. So when this page first loads, it fetches some classroom data for the actual teacher, right? So all the classrooms that are associated with the teacher, this is using trpc, does the query, I get back some classrooms. All right, but if for whatever reason there are no classrooms, right? I'm a brand new teacher and I don't have any classrooms, then it needs to show a blank state, right? It needs to show like an image that says, hey, like, let's go ahead and do something like this, right? In fact, let me just show you that real quick. If I were to just go to this router endpoint over here and just return an empty array like this, you'll see that it returns back something like this. So this is like the empty state, like so. And then if you actually have data, it'll show something. And if you have a low connection or a slow connection, let me see if I can emulate that real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this down and go to network. I will go ahead and go to throttling. I'll make it fast. And then I'll refresh the page and hopefully it doesn't take too long. So it should show a spinner somewhere in the page. There we go. You have like 3 little dots here. Super slow. It didn't really last that long, but you get the point. So let's just go ahead and we could probably mock this stuff out in the front end instead of the back end, and we can have like a faster feedback loop. So what I could do is just inside of use query, I'll just say const classrooms is equal to this, and I'll just go ahead and comment that out. And that should hopefully show me that blank slate. And then also I could like force this to be is loading if true if I wanted to. Just comment that out as well. So the idea is like I have this code down here, which I'm going to be doing this on basically every page or every like little sub panel or whatever that has to load and then fetch data. And if the data is not there, like show some type of like no classroom component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new component and I'm going to see if I can just kind of do this query cell component thing. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my common components and I will just put a new file called, I'll call it a blank state wrapper. And I don't know what the real name of that is, like UX blank state page React. Like what is that actually called? Is that called a empty state? So let's actually call it an empty state wrapper. And you guys can tell me what the real name of this is. It doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent in your project. And the idea is like this component, if I export it, I want to be able to use it on this classroom screen here. So instead of doing all this stuff, I'm going to do a top-down approach to try to figure out what type of interface this component needs to be able to display what I want. So let's just go ahead and pass it the is loading. Probably wants an is loading. It probably wants some type of data. In our instance, I'll just say is empty, could be our collection. So I'll just say like, what is it called? Classrooms question equals length, because this could be undefined. And then also what other state could we do here? We could do like show the actual classrooms. So yeah, let's just try to figure this out. I'm just kind of playing around with the code. Let's try to see what the best pattern is, but someone else could probably tell me. I think I'm going to do children here. So like, in a sense, this is like a suspense in React, but I'm doing my own little thing where if there's data, then actually show the classroom view. Otherwise, we're going to show some type of like no classrooms component. And then other than that, we'll show a spinner, right? So what this is providing us, and I don't know if it's really providing us much of anything. I'm going to cut this code out and I'm going to put it inside that empty state wrapper like so. And this is going to take in is loading. It's going to take in show empty state and then probably take in some children here. So we'll say children. And I'm going to go ahead and just render out the children here if there are children like so. That's about it. Now for the empty state, what should we show there? I guess the question is, should it be generic enough to like have the stuff passed in, or should we keep the loader kind of consistent to the app? I think the loader should be consistent. So there's only one place I have to like specify this. And then for the no classroom component, let's go back over here. And for right now, I am going to hard code this into that wrapper. And maybe what we could do is we could like just pass in the image. No classroom component. Yeah, so this is going to have to... I'm making an assumption that I want it to be kind of like the same on every page, which is probably not a good assumption. So maybe it makes more sense to have this thing passed in. And this could also be some type of like named slot component. That's the one thing I'm not really too sure in React is like, how do you do name slots? I believe you can just like pass in the React node here if you wanted to. So I could say like empty state. Like this, I could do define state. Let me rename this. Let's say empty component, defined component. And we're going to just display those here. So I guess we could just display them like that. Like so. So I'm changing my mind about everything right now. Like instead of having children pass in, because the issue with children is that you can't really like name stuff, I don't believe. So I'm just going to have them pass in as props. And then I'm going to say, if it's not loading and it's not show empty state, then we could probably display the define component. And I'll call it non-empty component. And then is loading, we just do the 3 dots. I don't like the color green. Maybe we should do like an actual like color that we're using everywhere else in this application, which happens to be whatever this is. Let's just go ahead and hover over like, do this right now. I'm gonna hard code this, who cares? All right, so what are we doing? We're making this wrapper, and this stuff, I think it actually needs to like be pulled in. So I'm gonna go over here and we're gonna pass it in as empty component. And maybe we could just define the React component like this. Don't know. And then we're going to define the other one. Non-empty component is going to be the classroom view. So let's just go ahead and define something like this. What did I call it? Show empty state and is loading. So at this point, I don't know if I'm even doing anything useful or not, but the idea is this: if you wanted to pass in a React node here, like I could just put this, like just pass it a DOM element here, and then this could also be a DOM, like a React node. And then in my TSX, like I could just go ahead and type this a little bit and say is loading is a Boolean, show empty state is a Boolean as well, empty component could be a React node. Non-empty component could also be a React node. Let me just go ahead and import those from React. And then I'm making it kind of generic, like all this thing knows how to do is show a spinner. Is this a good approach? I don't know. But What is this complaining about? Number is not assignable to Boolean. So if length is greater than 0, how about that? So let's see if we broke something. I'm sure we did. I think this stuff is like hard coded. At least the spinner looks a little bit nicer. All right, so going back up here, let's just go ahead and like remove those hard coded logic, and then also remove that. And let's verify object is possibly undefined. Okay. Let me just put that here. I don't know why it's saying it's all, like it could be undefined. Like show empty state. Oh, this should have been like equals 0. I'm not sure why I was complaining about it greater than 0. Like that's kind of weird. Like wouldn't it have been undefined anyway? Like why would this cause TypeScript to throw an error, but then this wouldn't? Super weird. I don't know. I need to kind of touch up on some stuff. So now we have like this component, which I'm still debating if this is even worth doing, because the only thing we really did was abstract away like this conditional logic for displaying the component or not. And that's all we really did. So it's like, was this worth doing in the end? I really don't know. These are the questions I ask myself every day of, am I over engineering or am I actually like doing something that's worthwhile? Like this example, this classroom has no assignments. It has the exact same kind of thing where it has like an empty state, an image, a button. And then when you actually define a classroom, it's going to show some data. So let's just go back here and I'm going to copy this approach. And I'm going to go back to the assignment screen. Actually, this is the classroom screen. And I'm going to paste that in, and we're going to try to just reuse it. A similar approach. I'm going to say is loading assignments, and then show empty state, like so. And then no assignments could be this. And then the other one could be this. All right, so this one, like, I think it needs to be something similar, like assignments.length is equal to 0. This one is saying assignments could be potentially undefined. Sure. Which I guess technically... Where's this defined? So like this could be potentially undefined, but I don't really like allowing this thing to be undefined. Like if you wanted to render assignments, like you should pass in an array. So like now I'm just second guessing everything I'm doing here. I mean, you could potentially just default this to an empty array, I guess. I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, let's go back here. So this page is going to show that little empty spinner thing, and I believe it's going to be using the same approach that we just kind of did. And if I were to create assignment like hello and create it, it's now going to show the assignments here, which would be the non-empty component. So, I mean, what this component allows me to do is I kind of abstracted away the spinner at least, but I don't really know if this is cleaning anything up. I guess it kind of reduced the logic I had up here with like having to know if it's loading or if it's defined or something. In fact, like I could probably pass in a collection here if that would make it a little bit more clear. Like instead of a boolean show empty state, I'm just going to pass in a collection, which could be an array of anything. And then I could just say, never mind. See, it's like, I could do that, but now it's like this component knows about the array. And should it really know about the array? I don't know. I don't think it should. I think it should just know about if it's loading or if it needs to show the empty state. And then we could pass in that boolean here. So, while we're at the classroom screen, let me go ahead and pull this out to a component. I believe I had those at the top of the file here, but I kind of would rather have those be their own component inside of this classroom screen, which is here. I'm gonna go ahead and just put empty state classroom. Like so. Go ahead and export. Hey, let me do this. Go ahead and export this. Go ahead and do that. I'll make this generic empty state classrooms. You know, the teacher image could be loaded in. Go ahead and load in the button here from my buttons components. And open classroom modal. Technically this thing, I'll just pass it in. Let's do this. So here I'll just do empty state classrooms, and then I'll pass in open classrooms modal. Okay, is that a little bit better? I might also pull this out to another component since I'm kind of doing that already. I'll call this classroom list. By the way, this video, like, I'm just trying to make some content. Oh gosh, I deleted the thing. I'm just trying to like do some refactoring, make some content. So yeah, kind of all over the place in this video, but whatever, who cares? Hopefully you guys are learning something from me. So this classroom list component, the classroom card should probably be defined in another component too. Like so. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that here. Go ahead and export that. And make sure that all this stuff is properly imported. Link is complaining. Button is complaining. What other things does this thing need to know about? It needs to know about the classroom ID in the classroom. Okay. All right, so let's go back. I'm kind of just separating some components out into other files so I can kind of get rid of some coupling on this component. And this one, I could probably import classroom list, which I did not export over here. So let me export that. And then also make sure that those are being imported. This needs to take in classrooms, and then that probably needs to be an array of classrooms is equal to classroom array. That's probably a Prisma client object. And then this also takes in a function. I'm just going to do any for right now because I'm lazy. But let's make sure the page still works because I did a bunch of refactoring, and I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I feel like I'm just kind of not with it right now, but if I go ahead and look at this code, it's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit cleaner. I kind of pulled all these different components out to subchildren in different files so that it's a little bit easier to manage. And I'm using this little empty state wrapper to basically pick and choose what component displays when there's no items in the list or there's items in the list, etc. I'm not a fan of this fallback, but I'm also not a fan of going into my classroom components and allowing this thing to be optional. I think components and subcomponents, like they should require certain things, right? This is an interface. This needs a collection because it does a map. And since it does a map, I don't need the question mark there. That's how I like making my components. If something is required for the component to actually like work, then I would just rather the parent fall back onto something else, but maybe it's a bad idea. At least at the very least, what I did was like this logic here doesn't have to be like sprinkled out through all my code base. It's just kind of shared here. And then we could potentially dynamically change what the loader is and pass that in if you want to, but I don't find a need for that. I'd rather be consistent through my whole app and not have to like decide what spinner to use on every page. So we dried up some of the code there. I probably want to just make sure that the empty state looks good here. So on the classroom screen, I'm going to change that to true. Classroom list. I set it to true, so it should have displayed. Do I need to refresh my page? Classroom list, classroom screen. Oh, I think I'm on the wrong page. Classroom screen. This one, if I just hard coded this to true real quick, let me just do this. Okay, that's what the empty state looks like. And then if I hard coded this to true, that should not show up. It should only show the spinner. So I think, oh, well, I guess this one is, yeah, let me look at the wrapper real quick, because I think if show empty state is true, it can't be loading. So if it's not loading and show empty state. Now, some people say ternaries are easier to understand. I'm actually going to try that. I don't know. So if it's loading, show the 3 dots. Otherwise, I probably have to do some type of nested ternary, which I'm not a fan of, but someone's saying that ternaries are actually like better than what I'm doing. So why not? I'll do that. And is that cleaner? Probably. I don't know. So now the spinner only shows. If the thing is loading, just show the loader. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and put false here. Now it's showing the empty state. If I put false here, it shows the actual stuff. Yeah, let me just go ahead and undo all that. I think it looks good now. And then going back to the other page, let me make sure the other screen, yeah, I guess that looks good. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, like, does this empty state wrapper, have you done something similar to this to abstract away like your loading state, your empty state, or your content state? Is this a good idea, or am I doing this all wrong? Should I use like a higher order component and do more of like composition to figure this out? Or is abstracting this stuff away so that I don't have to have this like ternary if then else all over my application? Let me know, but I did at the very least, I think I dried some code up, and I think I have a reusable thing that I can use on many different pages in the future. So like always, join me Discord if you want to talk to me directly or ask me questions, or if you just want help. There's a bunch of people in my Discord who are willing to help you if you're stuck with React or programming in general. And yeah, also be sure to like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Have a good day and happy coding.